How about some signing day superlatives from Alabama's stellar signing class?
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA's radio network. Luke Robinson, that's me. Bama Online's Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. We'll talk about FanDuel in just a bit. Thank you, everydayers, for joining us every day, and thank you, newbies, for being here today. We appreciate you guys so very much. Want to thank Michael Southern for joining us last night to talk about the Alabama win over North Carolina, which we'll bring up in the second hour. Asian Jimmy, as everybody was calling him, which he appreciated and loved, and I think that may stick because everybody was referring to the Office episode where Jim Halpert tried to trick Dwight into thinking he had been Asian the whole time, and it was a pretty good sort of opener. But anyway. Michael was a great guest. He knows his basketball, and boy, he loves Alabama basketball. And that's what we want on here. We don't care if you know it. We just want you to love it. So, but Jimmy, let's get into some signing day superlatives. You and I do this every year. It is much less organized than it's ever been. And that may be great.
Makes it all the better.
But Alabama did get Derek Meadows yesterday. That's something that we expected to happen, and it did happen. Derek Meadows, a 6'6" wide receiver. I mean, he's a gargantuan human being. His stats don't jump off the page at you, but I don't think that's a big deal when you're talking about 6'6" wide receivers who played for Bishop Gorman. I mean, when I look at that and I go, oh, yeah, I'll take him.
Yeah, production at wide receiver is so dependent on so many things, right? I mean, there have been wide receivers at Alabama, for instance, who've been productive because they had a really good quarterback. And then there's been some really good wide receivers that played at Alabama that maybe didn't have all the production in the world because they didn't have, an elite quarterback getting them the ball. I think the fact that Derek Meadows only caught about 500 yards worth of balls, I find that interesting and notable, but not a good enough reason to not take him. You take him over the upside and the potential and the talent. And the thing that I point to about Derek Meadows, if you're concerned about the production, is I'll tell you who wasn't concerned about the production. That's not even Alabama. LSU, Michigan, and Notre Dame, all trying very hard to sign that guy. And those are not FCS programs. Those are elite power programs. They all wanted Derek Meadows. Good pickup for Alabama. I like how he fits with Latsier Brooks because he's good like Brooks. He's just radically different, but that's what you want in a wide receiver core.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt. So he could be in some of these superlatives, and we may carry these over for a few days because there are a lot of them. But here's the catch. This class is smaller than most Alabama classes. So when I know you hadn't even had a shot to look at them, but when I was looking at it this morning, I was like, I don't even know that we can fill out all the superlatives because we can apply one that maybe we wouldn't normally do, but I may not even use all the categories. But let's start here, Jimmy, and you and I do always very hard. We try to pick different folks.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be harder than frozen adamantium, but and Wolverine shout out.
You go first. I'll try to pick someone different. I'll try. Unless I just can't.
Okay.
Like if you say best small receiver in the group and you pick Latsier
from New Jersey,
I'm going to have to see it. I'm probably going to go, hey, you stole my answer. I'm going to go with Latsier too.
Biggest get. I mean, this is a no-brainer for me. It's Keelan Russell. And if you want to piggyback on that one, I think it's fine. I mean, it's also kind of easy because he's the highest rated commit we have. But I think there have been other times where I thought our highest rated commit wasn't our biggest get. This one is our biggest get. And the reason I love Keelan Russell is several-fold. Number one, he was a 3-ish star, maybe low 4-star, committed to SMU that our staff evaluated, fell in love with, targeted, and got. And I think that that's great for our staff to be able to evaluate like that. But it's also great that Keelan Russell realized, okay, even though SMU is on the come up, I mean, SMU is in a conference championship game. We aren't. I mean, I know it's apples and oranges to a lot of y'all, and I'm a Bama fan. I'm just saying SMU isn't the has-been. Let's also remember SMU is actually paying money to be in a conference. That's how much money they have. So Keelan Russell decides to spurn the home state team and come to Alabama. He spurned several other overtures. And he was one of the reasons a lot of people in this class seem to want to stay in this class. Now, obviously, there's NIL, there's your own recruitment, everything else. But I think Keelan Russell, if you talk to the other prospect signees in this class, they tend to always bring up Keelan Russell. And seems like a gump right now. He's uber confident. If you saw he had an interview yesterday on one of the recruiting sites, and he said, yeah, I said I'm going to win the Heisman, and that's my goal, is to win the Heisman. And while that is an individual award, and some people could take that the wrong way and think it means something selfish, I choose to believe it means I'm going to be the best I can be. And if I'm the best I can be, yeah, you're handing me a trophy.
If he wins the Heisman, only good things are going to happen for Alabama. I can promise you that. I'll go so far. Yeah, Luke's right about the biggest get. It is Keelan. I'll give another name in a second as my official choice, but this is how much I think of Keelan, and I can't say this any more emphatically. I mean, I think Keelan is the equivalent of signing Tua Tagovailoa. He's the equivalent of signing Bryce Young. He belongs in their category of prospect. And look what they did. And that's what Keelan could do. He could do Tua and Bryce things. And that's unbelievable. So he is the biggest get. My answer, just to be different than Luke, will be Michael Carroll, because I think Big Mike is the second biggest get behind Keelan, and Mike Carroll in many, many, many classes would be the number one guy. I think as I just compared to Keelan, to Tua and Bryce, I compare Mike to these IMG freaks that came before him at Alabama: Evan Neal, J.C. Latham, Tyler Booker. Mike Carroll is in their category.
Yeah, and that leads me into the next category, which is future top 5 NFL pick. We try not to pick the same guy for different categories either individually, so I can't put Keelan there, even though I think he very well could be a top 5 NFL pick. I'm weirdly going to go with Michael Carroll. You look at his highlights, he is just somebody who enjoys pancaking you. And then when you're down, he wants to drive you into the earth. And that's sort of his thing. Tyler Booker had a pancake block on an Auburn defensive back this past week in the Iron Bowl, and he knocked him over. I think it was on a screen play, if I remember right, maybe a tight end screen, receiver screen, I can't remember. And then Tyler sort of gave a flex, like just sort of did like one of those. And I see Michael Carroll being that kind of guy.
Yeah,
like,
he is.
I wish, I wish this man would get up from me blocking him so I could block him some more. Just like praying, like, dear Lord, if you're up there, it's me, Michael. If you would let this man get up so I could hit him one more time, I certainly would appreciate it.
The best offensive linemen are bullies, and Booker's one, and I think Michael Carroll plays like one. I'm going to follow Luke's path here, and I'm going to pick Keelan Russell here. I mean, we're swapping out. I'll pick Keelan as a top 5 pick, and since Luke couldn't, he's again, Tua and Bryce were both top 5 picks. I think Keelan can have their kind of career. To me, the only question is, when will Keelan become the starting quarterback at Alabama? It could be against Florida State. It could be. I don't think it will. That's not. If we're having to predict today, I'll say that Ty Simpson's Alabama's quarterback next year, and not Keelan, and that Keelan will take over after Ty. But heck, I'm high on Austin Mack too. But this is the way Alabama's quarterback room has been since 2016, loaded.
Have we ever had a 6'6" quarterback or 6'7" quarterback throw into a 6'6" receiver?
That'll be nice. Boy, Nate Oates.
You sort of pitch it to him.
Certainly get Nate
It's
Oates.
just a bunch of hands-to-hands passing over the head.
Nate Oates will like it.
Every time I do like the little prayer thing where I say, please, I always think about the Simpsons when Homer was kidnapped, and Homer goes, please, if you're up there, save me, Superman.
Yeah.
I always love that. If you're up there, save me, Superman. I just find that to be hilarious. Now I got to tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And it's not just the NFL. We're emphasizing the NFL, but FanDuel's got a lot more than that. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like tonight, Packers Lions, you can check out the latest stats. You can view live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with 150 smacks in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, which is an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I like how you always sneak in NFL before I do, like you know the answer. You're like, ooh, call on me, I know.
I just like it. Oh, you got me. When you said Packers Lions, I'm like, oh man, that's a great Thursday night game. I know it's at Detroit. I take Detroit because it's at home and they're not in the Green Bay wintry weather. But Detroit's
already beat them there. They beat them in Green Bay already, and that is a great game. Usually the Thursday game is like Jacksonville against Pisgah. So I mean, yeah, it's usually not the best Thursday game. But speaking of games, I will be at Protective Stadium calling games today. So there are a lot of good players that will be out there. If you want to come see Naheem Alford or something, or Rodney Cleveland, he'll be playing tomorrow night. I won't be calling that one, but I should be there to watch it. So
you'll be there for all the games today, right?
I'll be there. I'm calling the 1A and 2A games. So the 3 o'clock games both days. I'll be there for most of the 11 o'clock and evening games, but I'm not really working them per se. I might just help out. So
a lot of prospects.
Lots and lots of prospects. Okay. I think this is an easy one. I'll let you go first because I have a backup, even though I think we're going to agree. We always do a category called Can't Wait to See the First Play of ... I'll let you go first because I know where you're going to go.
You already know where I'm going to go?
I bet you $100. It's got to be Brooks.
I'm going to make your day and be predictable and say Latsier Brooks because I think that's who you're.
Yeah.
And it is Latsier. I mean, he might be my favorite kid in the class. Normally, my favorite kid's somebody that's a 5-star, ranked top 15, top 20 prospects. Latsier, 2 services don't even rank him in the top 300. And this is like my favorite kid in the class. I've never been more certain about a kid being a good player that has his ranking. You know, I mean, I love Latsier. I've loved him from the first minute I saw his junior tape. I've been convinced he is an elite level kid. He has smashed every New Jersey high school receiving record there is. Everything about the tape is great. He's a speed guy, but he's a ball skill guy. He's either a speed guy that has great ball skills or a ball skills prospect that can really run. I mean, he's so good. It reminds me of Jalen Waddle. I don't think he's Waddle. I'm not comparing him to Waddle. I'm not saying, hey, he's the next Jalen Waddle, but he's like Waddle. I think, man, and he's got the quarterback coming in with him. It's lots here for me. I think he's going to be great.
You know, I guess the thing that is Waddle-like for him, and I always go back and look at our other – when we used to write for Crimson Country Club, we would write down our superlatives so it was easy to go back and look at them. And I compared JoJo Earl to Waddle, which looking back is silly. At the time, it seemed correct. But I think Latsier is even more like Waddle than JoJo Earl was. And the thing that makes him like Waddle – and again, there's only one Waddle, so don't think I'm saying he's Waddle. But he does everything full speed. Yeah. And like when Waddle's making a move, it's full speed. And it's really tough to do that. It's so instinctive. And I think that's how Latsier Brooks is. Now, Latsier Brooks played in New Jersey, which has good high school football. Jalen Waddle played in Texas, which is probably the best high school football. So, I mean, it's a little bit different things. But let's see how Latsier does when he gets here. Since you took Latsier Brooks, I will take Justin Hill. I've heard so much about Justin Hill.
Love it.
So much. Everybody's so fired up about him. I know Ohio State was dying to get him. And that excites me because if Ohio State wants you as an in-state guy, typically they get you. I mean, that's just – there's probably I wonder if there's another state where guys are as loyal to the home school, like the state school, as Ohio. Now, maybe if you want to say something like Utah, guys always go to Utah. Well, let's keep it in the realm of that has a lot of good prospects, meaning Alabama guys, they have 2 schools to choose from in state. And then this year, one went to Oregon. The top one went to Oregon. Zion Grady went to Ohio State. So there's 2 guys. Alabama didn't get any of the top.
LSU comes to mind for me. I think you're right.
LSU's good.
I think maybe the answer is Ohio State. That might be the answer, but LSU's a good answer. I also think, weirdly, another good answer here is Penn State. I think
Penn State's good, but I would say Penn State high school football doesn't produce the recruits. No. Ohio, Louisiana, Bama, Georgia, Florida. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No. Totally.
And Georgia's on the list, but they produce so many, they can't be.
And Georgia's so picky. There's so many great in-state prospects that Georgia doesn't even offer or take that go elsewhere that are great players. And Georgia signs a lot of California and Texas and Florida kids. Yeah, Georgia's in-state recruiting is a little weird to me. I think it should be more in-state focused. But I'm sure Georgia's like, we recruit as well as anyone. Why is anybody criticizing us? And that would be a good point. I'd be a little more in-state focused. I've said that about Alabama for years, and now we've had this strange year where Alabama didn't sign really, but just 2 in-state kids, which has to be the lowest amount ever. Strange circumstances led to that, and I think the more important thing is where Alabama finished nationally, as opposed to how many in-state kids they signed. But I guess I got off on a rabbit hole there. Sorry.
That's okay. I mean, we know you've got the white hair of a rabbit. That's why you did that. But okay, so the next category, and when we can go few different ways here, and I'm going to pick a more negative one because I feel like we've been too happy. I like to go middle of the road on this. We always pick a sleeper. I'm not ready to choose my sleeper yet because right now, based on I'm just not ready to choose my sleeper. We also have I'm more bearish, you're more bearish, I'm more bullish, you're more bullish kind of thing. But so what we're going to say is destined for medical redshirt or transfer portal. It's the worst category, but we put it on here so long ago and we've never taken it off. So we don't mean any insult by this at all.
So who's Alabama signing that we think won't finish their career at Alabama?
Correct. And I just for the heck of it, I'm going to pull up some old ones so that y'all know we say these things and then we don't mean them but we turn out being right a lot of the times. Back in 22, I had destined for medical hardship, Dane Shore. My former picks.
Boy, that basically happened.
Yeah. My former picks. Oh, my former picks were bad, actually. Oof. Well, Philip Ely was one of them. Alec Morris was one of them. Parker McLeod was one of them. But then, was it Deshaun Flowers? Who was the Flowers kid from Mobile, the running back?
Viger. Yeah, Viger. He went to. He ended up going to JUCO.
Yeah, it never really panned out. So that was
a good selection.
But then I had J.K. Scott, which was a big miss.
Boy, that was a whiff. But boy, I'm sure I've had some really. Hopefully, this is what I'm about to say. I hope is a whiff because
wait a minute. I want to tell you the rest of these so we can see if you think I'm good or bad at this. I had Elliott Baker, which I think I was on the nose.
I think he literally left over medical reasons. Literally did.
I had Irv Smith. I had Irv Smith, and you'll see I'll tell you why in a second. And I had Caden Clark. Caden Clark, I nailed that one. I did not. Irv Smith's still in the NFL now.
Caden didn't leave over medical reasons, but he left just because
he left.
He wasn't earning a spot here.
And then very stupidly, because I loved him, I had Tim Keenan. What was I doing putting Tim Keenan on this list? I loved it.
I know why. I know why you did. Because
he was big?
No, because during his senior year, he got that in the playoffs. He had that terrible knee injury.
That's it. That's why I said that. You're absolutely right.
And it took him a couple years to get over it, frankly, in terms of we didn't see the real Tim Keenan until probably going into his year 3. And that's probably due to that knee injury he suffered in the playoffs in the 12th grade.
All right.
My answer for this one is, and it's really numbers more than anything else. And please prove me wrong, fella. Please do. But I'll go Abdul Sanders here just simply because there's 3, Alabama signed 3 inside linebackers in this group, Duke Williams, Luke Metz, and Abdul Sanders. And you only play 2 inside linebackers. And kids these days when they're squeezed out of a spot, they leave. And I would say that Sanders is the third of the inside linebackers that they signed, and there's only 2 spots for them. So I'll pick Sanders as a guy that maybe doesn't finish his career, then throw in the fact he's from California, and sometimes those kids can get a little homesick because they're far away. So I'll pick Sanders here, but my hope is that 3 years from now, we're making fun of us like we just were, going, boy, that was a terrible pick. Sanders has been all SEC 2 years in a row. And boy, I'd certainly welcome it. But I'd just say Sanders because we signed 3 kids at the position.
No, I think that's actually a sneaky good pick. I couldn't decide, and I think they're kind of the same person, Marshall Pritchett or Caleb Edwards. Now, let me say this. They're 2 tight ends. I have been famously hurt by tight ends at the University of Alabama since I was back in school there, and that had nothing to do with football. I mean, I've had
– got beat up?
No. It was a joke about me and my terrible dating life. But and I was dating like – I was using tight end as an adjective rather than – well, I don't even know what it is. Doesn't matter. I was talking about girls. So
I was beat up by Keith McCants when I was at Alabama. We'll tell that story. We'll wait till the silly season, to the off season, and we'll go over that 10-minute story. But I almost got beat up.
That's not even fair. Does Keith McCants know he didn't need to be Keith McCants to beat you up?
I know exactly. It would have taken him I would have conceded. It would have taken him 4 seconds, and I would have conceded 1 second into it. You know what I mean? But yeah, I almost got.
You would have had one of those little Wile E. Coyote's white flags that he always carried around.
Yeah.
I would have too. I did an interview with Keith McCants. He was one of the more interesting people on this planet.
Oh, super guy. No ill will at all. It was actually a miscommunication of sorts. But yeah, I'll tell that story during the silly season. Y'all stay tuned till about May.
Uh-oh. I forgot that I'd need to do the double thing, and I didn't do it. But, all right, let's talk about Alabama beating North Kakalaki on the road. Look, our good friend William just texted us while we're doing this podcast and said, I know North Carolina is a good win, but is it really that good? Are they any good?
Oh, come on.
Shut your yapper. And William knows I love him, but shut your yapper. When you go, we don't get the opportunity to go to North Carolina all the time. We just don't. Now, what's weird is like for Duke and North Carolina, they usually bring in teams that are really, really good, like blue blood teams, visiting teams or blue bloods, conference teams, or they play somebody really bad. They don't usually give teams like Alabama and Auburn a shot to come in there and do like a home and home or anything like that, right? So we went up there, and I'm going to tell you, this is the other thing, and I said this last night. That crowd was bananas. I applaud North Carolina for showing up crowd-wise. They were into it.
They love their hoops.
Their defense was into it. Now, and I've watched a lot of North Carolina games. I enjoy watching North Carolina. I've seen their crowd be kind of lax, be sort of like Alabama football where they're like, yeah, we're supposed to beat the heck out of y'all, so we'll clap when we do something good. If we do something bad, we're more likely to boo than clap, But we went in there, and their crowd was at a fever pitch. We had people show up. Shout out to any of y'all who went to that, man. In the middle of the week, if that was a Saturday, I'm there. I skip everything. I miss weddings, funerals, birthdays, births. I miss it all to go. But I couldn't on a Wednesday. But, man, Jimmy and Michael Southern and I talked about this so much last night. This team has so many ways to beat you. And then the one thing that I was worried about, I was like, gosh, I love Trelly, Reitzel. He gets hurt, tears an Achilles, which I know sucks because I've had it done. It sucks. It's awful. Rehab sucks. And what do? We just go to a guy at the end of the bench who's good, but we say to him, hey, you want to burn your red shirt? And he's like, yeah, I'll burn my red shirt and go out there and go 2 for 2 from beyond the arc at one of the most iconic venues in college basketball in the country. Sure, why not? Houston Mallet was not intimidated in the least. Now, he's not Reitzel, but he's good enough. He's really good. We're so deep, Jimmy. I said this last night. Randy Travis said, my love is deeper than the holler. Our bench is deeper than Randy Travis's love.
May have topped yourself. That's good. That's going in the locked on.
Is he dead?
He's not. He's not. He's not great, but he's not dead. It's not great.
Do you know he's not great?
Well, what I mean is he's not super healthy, I guess.
I thought you were saying like he just didn't sing, like he just quit singing.
Oh well, he's yeah. But that's a good line. We're gonna keep that one. Don't edit that out. We're keeping that line.
I haven't edited nothing out for years.
We've never edited. We don't know how.
I know. Last night, because Jimmy, I had Jimmy Stein and your Twitter handle underneath Michael Southern's picture, and that's where everybody was like, "Jimmy looks different."
Jimmy drank a lot after those rankings came out.
Jimmy sounds smarter, but where did his hair go? All right. So anyway, what did you think about the game?
LeBaron Filon, wow, just what a talent. I think it's incredible. Mark Sears, by the way, starting to be more Sears-like again. I know it's not vintage North Carolina. This isn't a North Carolina team that's likely to be in the Final Four, but it's North Carolina. They recruit at the highest level. They care about basketball. It is a huge win. I would say it's a big win to go on the road and beat any ACC team. If you go on the road into their gym and win the game, and I know the ACC's down, the SEC's been kicking their butt. I know. But you can't pick an ACC team where I wouldn't say going into their gym and winning is easy. And it's North Carolina, and again, they recruit at the highest level, and RJ Davis is a really good player. And they have some talented young kids. I think that win was awesome. And I think it's yet again evidence that this Alabama team is capable of winning it all. They're capable of winning it all. And I don't want to put that expectation on because, again, I don't want there to be a team that falls just short of that and we consider it a disappointment. I'll be mad about that.
Don't do that, people. Because the tournament gets so wonky, you just never know. And again, I told my Auburn friends this last year, and I don't like building Auburn up for anything. But there were some, I can't believe we lost. I was like, y'all need to understand Auburn's been bad for so long. And y'all won the SEC tournament. You had a good year. You made the tournament. And you got upset, and that sucks. But you got to look big picture here. And I'm going to say that to Alabama people all year long. I'm going to say that. Yeah. Though we'll be upset if we lose a tournament run. This team's built for a tournament.
We'll be upset if, based on how the season's going, we lose to an Ivy League team in the first round. And I get that we'd be upset about that. But what I'm saying is, if we get back to the Final Four and lose in the semifinal, you're not going to get tears from me or anger or boy, we underachieved. But this season's going to be so much fun because of like last night. Last night was great. That was awesome. It was fun to watch Alabama whip North Carolina in the Dean Smith Center. And who would have thought that you would ever see that? And now 3 wins in a row over North Carolina.
That's wild. And then, our wins this year. I mean, how about we got Creighton next a week from Saturday. They just took down Kansas on the same night we did this. Yeah. We play Auburn twice. Now, Auburn lost to Duke last night, but that was a great game. I mean, those are 2 really good teams.
No doubt.
So I watched all that. And then the SEC does go, what did they go, 16-2, was it, against the ACC?
I think that's right.
It can't be 16. We're only 14-2.
14.
We're only 16 teams.
I think there were 14-2.
Yeah.
Which is just, 10-6 would have been great.
Yeah. 9-7, we claim a victory.
That's right. And the ACC, it just goes to show, hey, to me, it's SEC money. And by that, I mean, the SEC is the best conference in everything because why? It makes all that money from the SEC network, from the TV contracts, ESPN, the attendance, the passion. The SEC is just the best. And it's overtaken even the ACC in basketball.
I'm really, really hoping next year they don't stick us with something. Again, no offense to these teams. They better not send us Wake Forest to Tuscaloosa next year. They better send us Duke.
I think,
I don't think they'll send North Carolina because they never do the home and away thing. But it needs to be somebody like a Duke.
It'll be Duke or whoever in the ACC this year achieves the most. Like if there's a team like Miami that makes
Louisville. I would take Louisville. I wouldn't be fired up about it, but I would take because we've done Louisville. So
we've played Louisville and Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, we played Louisville. I know we played them back when Denny Crum was still there. It was like 2000 when Gerald Wallace.
Gerald Wallace was a freshman. Yeah, and I remember he had a monster game against Louisville.
He destroyed them.
That's why I remember it.
And Denny Crum was just like a shell of his former self then. But anyway, and Michael Southern said this, and this ought to scare the college basketball world. We hadn't scratched the surface of our best game yet. We have not played. This was the best game we've played to date. It was not the best we can be.
Agreed.
So, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.